You know, I've got to say I was not prepared for just how popular explosive space slug ammunition was going to be as loot for my player characters. Today, I'm going to be talking about what I consider the Alien Archive series from Starfinder to be the gold standard of monster book design in an RPG on this episode of The Local Disaster Tour Guide. Hello travelers and tourists, my name is Mark and I am the local disaster tour guide. That's right, I am a storyteller who is a little bit disappointed with himself because it never occurred to me that I could make my players have starship dogfights against colossal fire elementals. I really feel like I should have thought of that one. Welcome to a journey through the fantastic world of RPGs like Pathfinder and Starfinder. Today, I'm going to be doing the first video and kind of a test video for a new series I'm thinking about doing from time to time on this channel, Gold Standard Design. The Arcanist from Pathfinder 1st Edition. The Mandatory Bonus Duty Test from the Paranoia RPG. The Stunt Dice Mechanic from White Wolf's Exalted. From time to time, through my history as a gamer, I have come across just some incredibly well-designed products and rules inside of RPGs. There have been many occasions throughout my gaming career where I have encountered something that was just so well done that I continue to think about and fondly recall those products or those classes or those rules even well after I've stopped playing that particular RPG. These are what I call gold standard design elements in an RPG. Sometimes RPG creators make good games, and sometimes they make absolutely amazing games. And this series is going to be a celebration of some of the highlights of different TTRPGs that I have enjoyed. Now, I want to be clear about this series. This series is not about the good games, the good classes, or the good spells. This series is about the exemplary items inside of RPGs. These are the products, the classes, the rules elements that stand out in the field, even inside of their own RPG, and serve as inspiration for years to come. Frequently, in conversations inside the gaming community, I feel like we get hung up on some of the negative elements or some of the poor design decisions that we see in the RPG space, but I kind of wanted to flip that script in this series and focus on the incredible elements and talk about some of my favorite things that I have seen in terms of RPG products. Now, I will say with this series that the focus of this series is probably going to vary from episode to episode. Sometimes I may be zooming out and looking at a very big picture portion of an RPG, and other times I may be focused in on very small or specific elements of an RPG, but the goal here is to focus on the things that have been done in a superlative fashion. So, let's get started. Now, for the first video in this series, I wanted to focus on a product line that I consider to be one of the most exemplary product lines I have ever seen published by an RPG company, and that is the Alien Archive series for Starfinder. I'm serious, I love the Alien Archive series for Starfinder, and it actually kind of came as a surprise to me when I realized how good this product line is. When Starfinder first dropped, they didn't have a bestiary or monster book available at launch. It was actually one of the disappointing things about the Starfinder launch. I remember thinking as a storyteller at the time that I wasn't sure if I wanted to invest in Starfinder because they were kicking off their game without publishing any kind of monster book. And then, when they did finally announce the Alien Archive, the first monster book for the system, my apprehension grew. This book is not even 160 pages with appendices. Compared to most other monster books that you see for RPGs, this is just a tiny product. I remember when the Alien Archive was announced, thinking that Paizo was probably going to deliver a very disappointing product. But I took a chance, I bought the book, and I have to say it was one of the best purchase decisions I have ever made. I absolutely loved the Alien Archive, and I have gladly invested in the entire series up to this point, and so far I have found the entire series to be just fantastic products. So let's pause for a moment and talk about the monster book. Monster books are a necessary product in any RPG. If you're going to have heroes, you need adversaries. If you're going to have adventures, you need dangers for those adventures. The monster book, the challenges book, the bestiary, the villain codex, whatever you want to call it, the big list of things to stab is pretty much a necessary part of any game. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about the existence of monster books, but it's definitely one of those products that you need but you don't appreciate very much in terms of published gaming products. I have gladly bought the special edition version of all three bestiaries for Pathfinder 2e, and as beautiful as those books are and as amazing as the artwork is, I have to be honest, I don't really open those books very much compared to the other books in my Pathfinder 2e collection. The bestiary is there when I need something for my players to fight, and when I'm not planning a fight scene, it's a monster book. What else am I supposed to do with it? Well, much to my surprise, Paizo has shown with their Alien Archive series that the monster book for an RPG can be more than just a monster book. And today, I want to talk about 3 reasons why the Alien Archive series is my gold standard of what a monster book can be in an RPG. Those 3 elements are monster creativity and diversity, player-focused content, and top-down monster design rules. Let's get started. So up first, I want to talk about monster creativity and diversity in the Alien Archive series. Paizo started off strong with the Alien Archive 1, and really, if I wanted to convince you that they started off strong, I'd just show you the Skittermanders because they're basically the most wonderful thing ever made. I'm not even joking there. 2 Christmases ago, I had my entire role-playing group fighting over plush Skittermanders. But beyond just adorable company mascots, Paizo really brought a lot to the table when it came to monster creativity and diversity. You have everything from space goblins to robots to assembly oozes. You have a variety of different alien species that can potentially serve as player characters. The array of creatures presented in the book was truly amazing for how small the product was, and as the Alien Archive series has continued, the diversity of creatures has just continued to grow from book to book to book. Now, I will say that on this particular point, I think the Alien Archive series benefits from some of the unique elements of the Starfinder game. If you saw my Starfinder core rulebook review, you may remember that I said one of the best things about Starfinder is its setting. Often with a lot of RPGs, you find that the setting of the RPG kind of limits what you can do in terms of stories at your table. I love a good fantasy RPG, but it's kind of hard to run a story about an evil global corporation in a game of D&D or Pathfinder. The themes of fantasy adventure just don't fit very well with that kind of story. But one of the great things about Starfinder is their setting is designed in such a way that you can pull from an array of different stories. High adventure, that's possible. Corporate espionage, completely legit. Survival horror. Starfinder has a setting that is very adaptable to an array of different stories, and I think that that flexible setting really serves the Alien Archive series well, because it allows the designers for Starfinder to really play around with the different aliens and enemies and antagonists that they can create for the story. One of the great things about the Alien Archive series is you don't just have monsters that you fight when you're planet-side during Starfinder. There are now monsters that are specifically designed to be up in space and engage in space battles against your starship. The setting is flexible enough that when Paizo dropped colossal spaceship-sized elementals as potential space encounters, it fits. You can tell that the people who are writing for the Alien Archive series are having fun playing around with just so many different types of stories and types of monsters. They really get to have a lot of fun with the different kinds of creatures that they can bring to the game. From rules for symbiote player characters, all the way to gremlins that will trick you into abandoning your spaceship, these books are full of interesting and unique monsters, and I find myself coming back to this product again and again and again because of how much I enjoy just all of the different creations that Paizo has brought to the table with this series. I really think the creativity and diversity of the types of creatures in this series is one of the things that makes the Alien Archive stand out when you compare it to other monster books in other RPGs. But I have been alluding to an even more important point that I think makes this series stand out. The second thing that I want to talk about from the Alien Archive series that really makes these products stand out for me is the incredible amount of bonus content and, more importantly, player-focused content. Normally, monster books are for storytellers. The game master needs the monster book, and unless you're playing a summoner, you probably don't care about the monsters or the monster stat blocks very much. Most game systems see the monster book product line as a very game master focused product line, but the Alien Archive series really stands out in comparison to other monster books because they realized that doesn't have to be the case. I've already referenced several times the number of unique alien species that exist in these books that players might use in developing their characters. I haven't gotten to play a Skittermander yet, but you can bet I've got that character planned out. One of the incredible things about the Alien Archive series is how much time my players have spent digging through the Alien Archive books just to see what options they have for characters that they can play. Now, I do recognize that that's kind of a sci-fi trope, but it's also a really smart decision just from a product standpoint, because it opens up an array of people who might become interested in purchasing a book. No longer are these products just for the game master, but because there are options for players inside of these books, suddenly you have a product that everyone at the gaming table might be interested in, and Paizo goes beyond just that basic, what unique alien species can we create? These books are filled to the brim with bonus content, and the majority of that content is player-focused content. There are unique weapons, there are unique armors, there are unique feats, there are unique spells. There are all kinds of special rules elements for many of the monster entries in these books that a player might be interested in using for their character. Here's a quick example. In Alien Archive 3, there is a creature known as the Diatha, the explosive space slug. They smell like petroleum, and yes, they can and do explode. Well, not only is this a creative and fun monster you can throw at your players, but then Paizo goes a step further and introduces a story hook and rules element that the players might find engaging. Through a clever mixture of magic and technology, larval Diatha can be used to create special incendiary ammunition that your players might just want to load into their gun. And I should point out, the reason I am aware of the Diatha and the explosive space slug ammunition is because one of my players read this book on their own and went out of their way to say, "Mark, can I get this in game? That sounds awesome." I think it's incredible that Paizo took the time to put so much player-focused content in a book that most RPG designers just kind of assume is for game masters only. It really helps these books stand out compared to other products. However, there is one more thing that makes this series stand out to me, and I do think it is worthwhile to note how Paizo shows respect to game masters on my next point. Now, to be honest, bonus content is almost a meme with Paizo when it comes to the Alien Archive series. From expansive rules for polymorph spells, to a full system for designing special companions that your PCs might use, the idea of bonus content is definitely something Paizo does well in this series, but it was the very first example of serious bonus content that Paizo did with this line that really made this product stand out to me. Alien Archive 1, Appendix 1, Creating Monsters and Other NPCs. This section of the Alien Archive 1 is dedicated to giving game masters the tools to design their own monsters and antagonists from the top down. From attacks to hit points to saves to different monster roles and even rules for spellcasting monsters, this is a complete system for building your own monster as a game master. And I want to emphasize that Paizo included these rules in Alien Archive number 1. This honestly made my jaw hit the floor when I first saw it. I have seen plenty of RPGs put out rules for designing monsters, but often the rules for designing monsters are from the bottom up, building from the ground level and advancing the monster up to whatever power level you might need it to be. And on top of that, monster building rules are typically released later in the life cycle of a game. Paizo didn't do that here. I mean, think about this from a business perspective for a moment. Putting out the rules for top-down monster creation at the very beginning of a game's life cycle is a little bit risky. You are putting all of the tools necessary into a game master's hands for them to build any and every monster they could possibly want. So, you know, functionally, why do you need the other Alien Archives? I could very easily see people looking at this particular toolkit and saying, well, I've got everything I need now, and not even worrying about future products. Well, I could see a business doing that if they weren't confident in their products. You see, as far as I'm concerned, when Paizo dropped the monster creation rules in Alien Archive 1, what Paizo was doing is they were showing incredible respect to their game masters. They know that we like their products. They know that we support their work. They know that we support the industry. and they were more than happy to give us the tools to create right out of the gate. Rather than worrying about their products competing against the creative talents of their game masters, Paizo gladly put tools in the game master's hands so that we could create from the very beginning, and I honestly think that is a huge benefit to Starfinder as a game. Some of you on this channel are aware that I am one of the Platinum Prize winners from RPG Superstar 2020, and one of my monsters is going to be featured in a Pathfinder 2e compatible book, the Salt Stalker monster. I created a monster called the Salt Stalker, and I am honored that it was selected as one of the winners of that competition. But to be honest, that monster was originally built for Starfinder. I built that monster using the Starfinder monster creation rules. It was the creative tools that Paizo gave me in Starfinder that originally inspired that creature and later allowed me to adapt that creature to Pathfinder 2e and participate in the RPG Superstar competition. Paizo recognizes that the creativity of its game masters is a resource, not a form of competition with their own books. They know that they're putting out fun and interesting products, and they're more than happy to let us create along with them. It really makes me respect the Alien Archive series. A lot of game systems don't do this. In fact, Paizo doesn't always do this. In Pathfinder 1st Edition, the equivalent rule set was released very near the end of Pathfinder 1e with the Pathfinder Unchained book, and in 2e the rule set did come out sooner, but you still had to wait for the Game Mastery Guide before you had an equivalent set of tools. I really respect that Paizo led with monster creation rules in Starfinder. It shows incredible respect for their community. On top of that, there are two different ways that you can do monster creation rules. There's ground up and top down. Now, there are benefits and drawbacks to both systems. I won't go into all of those things here, but I will say that the top-down model of monster creation is a lot more user-friendly. If you want to get new game masters creating new monsters and new creatures quickly, the top-down model is probably the better model for doing so. It's a lot more user-friendly, it's a lot more accessible. So what Paizo did is they published a very accessible tool very early in the history of the game, and ultimately I think that it brings a lot of value to Starfinder as an RPG. So those are just 3 things about the Alien Archive series that really make them stand out to me as monster books in an RPG. There are lots of monster books in lots of different games out there, and I've used plenty of them throughout my gaming career. But the Alien Archive series is the first time I've seen a monster book series so good that I go to the books for inspiration even when I'm not running Starfinder. So for that reason, I give the Alien Archive series for Starfinder my Gold Standard Design Award for monster books in an RPG. But let me turn the conversation over to you. What do you think? Do you agree with me that the Alien Archive series is the strongest example of how to do monster books for an RPG? Or do you think that there is another series of monster books that deserves the title? Let me know in the comments section down below. Also, if you have ideas for other topics that I can do as part of my Gold Standard series, let me know, and I will gladly consider them for future videos. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, and definitely be a part of the conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and have a wonderful day.